I need you to hate so I can use you for your energy.
This is Real Sales Talk. Real sales advice from real sales practitioners. Giving you tips on how to dominate your sales quota are your co-hosts, Sean Mitchell and Phill Keene.
We don't have a process for referrals at most companies. I go into a company, I say, what's your referral process? They have no, well, what do you mean?
I think that goes back to the premise of why do salespeople suck at prospecting? I mean, number one reason why they suck at prospecting is they don't actually do it.
If you are successful and nobody knows, in 2016, 20, 2025, you're not successful.
You ever want to find out what's going on in the company? Get in the car and spend a day with the top 3 salespeople. You'll find out in 5 minutes.
Because you can't be a trusted advisor without 2 things, trust and advice. I mean, you need both of them.
What's going on, everyone? It's season 5, episode 3, and it's Phill and I jamming tonight. We're going to be talking about a few things that are really a few changes in our roles at our respective companies, and share along that journey that we've kind of been going on, some of the things that we've been working on. So hope everyone is doing fantastic. Looking forward to jumping in. Phill, how's it going today?
It's going well. The last 2.5 days has been a sales kickoff. We actually call it the growth kickoff at Octave. So it's sales and marketing, product management. So we did the growth kickoff for the last 2 days. So lots of content, lots of good things. But it's good. Other than that, it's snowing. I'm here in Indianapolis. Nice. Snowing hard. Probably got a few inches. So we'll see. I don't have worry about delays or anything like that for kids in school yet. They're too young. But yeah, it's good. I love a good snowfall.
What's like? So is a couple of inches a lot in your area, or do you typically get more than that?
It depends on the year. I think if you look at Indianapolis, it's kind of it actually sits between 2 weather patterns. So it could go. Last week it was 58 degrees. Actually, beginning of this week it was still 50 degrees. And then today it's 28-ish, and it's just that cusp where it snows hard. I've also had this time of year where it's -15. So you just never know. It's a lot like Chicago weather for anybody else that's in the Midwest, from Chicago or like a St. Louis or Cincinnati. Probably more of a Chicago weather pattern though, where you get hit hard and it could be 50 degrees one day and 25 the next, and then -10 the next. So yeah, interesting. But a few inches, it's good, healthy snowfall. But I feel like we know how to drive here still in the snow.
That's good. Although sometimes people can forget if it's been a long time since it's snowed. I know that's the case here in Denver.
Yeah. It's funny you said that. So we actually went go-kart racing last night as a company, well, as a growth team. And we went to, there's a track. So Sarah Fisher's one of the Indianapolis 500 racers. So she raced IndyCar for a long time. So she has a adult go-kart racing place, and it's like 45 miles an hour, and you're drifting around corners and hitting straightaways. And it's kind of one of those things, like I definitely forgot how to drive for a second, or maybe I felt like I knew how to drive more confidently than I actually could. So
that's awesome.
That was a good time.
So today we're going to be talking about our respective changes in our jobs and job titles. You recently updated your LinkedIn profile. This is kind of how I know. You updated your LinkedIn profile to marketing director from marketing manager.
So I was running demand generation. So it was manager of demand generation for a long time. Director of marketing is now the new title, and it's taken a really interesting approach at Octave and how it works. So I actually have SDRs underneath me, as well as the demand process and really the programs for marketing of how we go to market and build pipeline. So that's also going to include things like an outsourced SDR team or BDR team, as well as like MDRs that are supported by channel partners. So working with companies that have SDRs that are supporting us to bring leads and stuff into us. So really interesting. And we also shifted to an account-based model. So we moved away from the traditional leads and contacts and trying to drive a heavy amount of leads into very strategic, very strict account focused.
What is it? Talk a little bit about that, because that sounds like a really big transition.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's one of those things. It's really easy to get stuck in I don't want to steal Trisha's thunder because we are going to have her on in this account centric world where it's really easy to say, hey, you know what, Sean, here's 50 accounts that you're going to go work. I think they're a good fit. But just having the right accounts doesn't make you account based. It doesn't make you account focused. Really, the account based model that exists is pretty squishy. I think a lot of people out there, they say a lot of different things and it has different meaning for different companies. In my opinion, to truly do an account based model, you need from pre-lead acquisition, so all the way of every company you would potentially want to target, all the way into how you message to them, how you would reach them, how you would get in touch with them, to how you would acquire them, how you set up pages, like all of the pre-marketing stuff, to, okay, great, we have a lead, we've acquired a lead. You're still going to live in the world of leads in an account-based model, even if they are from a target account. So you still have to consume leads and convert them into accounts. So it's making that switch and understanding how to take a lead from, okay, I acquired it, to I need to hand this account off to the next phase, the next person, the next player that inside of our company that should be focusing on it. And then from there, it's figuring out, okay, how do we then go target not just the single lead inside of the account, but the multiple actors and players that are inside of an account and the different personas you would potentially speak to. And if you look at a use case, you might have a use case for HR, but you also might have a use case for finance. But really, there could be an IT person that could drive both decisions at the same time. So it's understanding that and in context. So your personas inside of the account, and how do you message to them? And then taking it a step further, it's, well, how do you help guide that into the actual sales funnel and forecast it? And then what kind of support do you continue to give to them throughout the process, not just from sales support, but marketing support, and really it's even product enhancement support. How do you get an account manager involved, client success involved, whoever it is that has to work into it? Like, to truly do an account-based model well, the entire company has to be bought into the process, and everyone has to know how they play and factor into the sale. So that's kind of a quick tangent, but I'll slow down and let you pick on it a little bit.
No, I think it's interesting, and I'm curious to know, just from a personal perspective, how did this topic come about? Was this an evolution of multiple conversations with multiple people? Was there a certain point that you or the leadership realized that you needed to start shifting the focus a little bit?
So I think there's a few factors. So I feel the account-based approach is very common sense. And I mean that in the nicest way, like in the most very you should think about this type of way. If I walked up to you, Sean, and said, you should go sell the exact accounts that would be best for you to sell to, it's common sense. No one's going to tell you, I don't want to do that. Why would I do that? So I think it's really easy to sell somebody on the fact that they should do an account-based model. But I think what the problem is, it's the tactics that actually execute that well. Because what happens is most companies refuse to slow down enough to figure out how to do it well, because they get frantic at the end of the quarter and they have to push harder and faster for newer leads and pay more money and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? They go back into this traditional model that they've always had. So that's part of it. Is it's really easy to sell somebody on the theory and the thought behind it of why you should go do it. But it's really getting true executive sponsorship to change and getting that executive team to change their mind to where they stop thinking in this world of we could sell to all people at all times, or we have a massive market and our total addressable market is this just gigantic patch. It's possible. And if you can actually say that, the account-based model is probably not a fit for you. You probably need to just continue to go about how do you drive more meaningful leads that have velocity behind it. And we can talk velocity all day long. For companies that are trying to go up market or are already seeing success in the enterprise or high mid-market, Fortune 1000s, Fortune 5000 type companies, those and that patch is tight. Like our total addressable market of what we feel is a good fit is about 15,000 companies. And that's from $50 million up to about $5 billion plus. And then there's a patch that we think are really high propensity still in like the $10 million to $50 million range that are good fits by industry. But really it's taking all of that data and consuming it back down of, all right, who by industry it would be the highest likelihood by these types of industries. So you might have 25 industries you're selling to or 25 SSC codes you're selling to. And then it's figuring out, well, of those, who has the highest propensity? And then it's taking back the next layer of data. So it's, well, what revenue patches or what revenue segment is the best inside of that? And then it goes back to, well, what other firmographics? Is it a state, a city that we want to go focus on? Is it a technographic? Is it a, hey, these people all use this certain type of CRM or this certain type of back office system or this certain type of execution for contract type thing? Like, is it, what is that thing that applicable? If it's an HR company, do they use the same tracking system for their candidates? Like there's different things you can look at, and maybe that's like your extra layer. So you just kind of keep adding on things until you get a consumable amount of counts. And this is where there's a lot of people that don't understand how many accounts to give. I'm on the camp that I think I should give you a very small amount. Like I'd rather give you, Sean, 25 accounts and let you go figure out 25 accounts rather than give you 5,000 accounts or 500 accounts or even 300 accounts. Because your immediate reaction as a salesperson to 300 accounts is, all right, what's the best 20 or 50 that I can work inside these 300 accounts? And that's great, but I'd rather just kind of parse them out and give them to you out over time. So I think there's a lot you can do. You just have to understand what your actual addressable market is. And then it's even going a layer deeper from an account-based model of understanding what your total interested market is. So it's not just who's addressable, it's who's actually looking for what you do. So I can look at all the firmographics and technographics in the world, but if they don't have a need or a want today, it's gonna slow that process up, and we can still warm those people up, but looking for tools that can start listening for the types of account you want in your industries and that with the same type of technographics for you, that maybe they're searching for sales proposal software, if they're looking for Octave or something like that, or they're looking for contracting, or they're looking for maybe it's the content management system. I don't know what it is, but those are the types of things that they're searching for on the internet. I need to start listening for that type. So you're constantly adding new accounts that are good fits. And I think that's it. So you have to have a really strong ICP, so ideal customer profile, and be able to be strict about this is who we sell, this is our patch.
I think that's hard to do when, you see a lot of opportunity and you want to go after everything, but it's that saying, I think, jack of all trades but master of none. You don't master in any specific area, and by nature you don't become great at anything. You become mediocre or good at many things.
Yeah, so that was a long answer to your question, but what happened was we had an executive come in. So Brad Gillespie came in, and I completely agree with you. So you can't be a jack of all trades. You're a master of none in that sense. So Brad Gillespie came in, who was formerly the CMO over at Serious Decisions. He's their CMO now at Octave, and he has a very similar thought process in mind that I do in terms of the account-based model. And so I finally got my executive sponsor that understood it at such a great detail, and friends in the network to be able to pull people in to help us build this. So we completely ripped out everything from scratch. Like personas changed, our message changed to the market, who we targeted at the market at that level, at the highest level, down into even like brand message changed, all of it changed. And then it went into, well, how's the process look? So we ripped out basically the entire demand process that we had, slowed the engine down a lot. And I don't recommend that for a lot of companies. If you're moving, don't stop moving, but find a way to start at least testing the waters with the account-based model. So slowing down the engine a little bit and making sure we're doing things right and building a process. And I completely rebuilt the SLA that fits an account-based model. So it's not, if I'm a BDR today, I'm not handing you a single lead, Sean. I'm handing you at least a path to signature with the right types of people, and I can at least identify the players and the problems that exist inside of an account. There's different things I think you look at, but we rebuilt the entire SLA from very, very, very start of, we acquire a lead. How does the lead become an account? How do you start looking at an account and developing an account? And it's requiring people at the M2 developing account stage to target more than one persona, to have a unique message for each persona. And guess what? We're going to support them for marketing with content. We're going to support them with things that they can go to market against with webcast and events or whatever it would be. Targeted ads by persona inside of those accounts. Like, those are things I think that account-based model, but it's very difficult to, one, sell a sales leader on it, two, to have a marketer that can understand it at that depth, and then also a marketer that can understand, one, how do I take an account and move it into a sales funnel where it's forecasted, is really, really, really difficult. So that's something that it takes a lot of time. It took me almost 4 months to rebuild what I thought the entire process would look like. And we launched it this week. So it's something that was part of the promotion was, hey, we're launching this, but we need someone that's going to focus on the actual lead acquisition into forecasted opportunities. So that's really where I sit in the company, is all of that right there. And there's a lot of elements to it where there's even a sales ops type element to it, or sales enablement type element to the job, because it's actually walking a lead to an account to walk into and say, here's sales guy one, I have this thing for you, but this is what the actions they've taken already, and these are the things I know about them. Here's what I think you could go sell. And I think that's a unique position that a lot of people don't have.
That's cool. I think we should definitely do another update, let's say 6 months from now. And because I would love to hear how that process is going, what you're finding working, what's not, what changes you've made. I think there could be a lot of value that people, our listeners, get from, talking about essentially now the launch, the beginning of it, to, 6 month, a 6 month update or something like that. So we'll, come summertime, we should do like another, okay, how's this process going? What have you learned? What have you changed, if anything?
Yeah, I'd love to. I think it's exciting to kind of watch how everything's transpired, and excited to launch it. And I was really hesitant. So I presented it finally as I built out for months and months and months of this. And I've given bits and pieces to people over time just to ask for feedback. This is the first time I've actually presented the entire plan to the entire sales team and marketing team and product management team, the entire growth team. So it's the first time I've given the entire, and the feedback was interesting because as you sit there, it's one of those things, Sean, it's so easy to sell somebody on because it's so common sense. It's so easy to get somebody bought into it where it's, yeah, hey, I want to sell the right types of accounts that have the highest likelihood for me to close, that also know who we are and what we do before they even talk to me. All of it makes sense and feels good when you say it out loud. But to your point is, in 6 months, let's talk about, did it work? And I'm happy to go through that in 6 months and go, and yeah, I hope it works. I really do. And hope's not a strategy. So I think that's kind of where I'm at right now, where it's, I got to move things forward. I got to execute. So I think that's exciting.
I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, this is probably a good segue into some of the things that I've been working on over the last week or so. But I think it's okay to do something and then realize, maybe that wasn't ideal, or maybe that was good for the season. But with the perspective that's had, here's what would be better, or here are some changes or tweaks, and talking about this new venture into account focused selling. Maybe you look in 6 months and say, hey, we like this, but we totally change this to fit our needs and our sales team's needs. So I actually, this is, what is today, Wednesday. So for the last week, I actually have transitioned on from RealSpace, and it was a mutual decision to part ways. I think what I'll share is there's a lot more maturing of the software that I think needs to happen in order for RealSpace to start to attract the U.S. market. They've got a nice substantial base abroad, internationally, but that was one of the things that was kind of like a stop and start, and so it felt right to come to a conclusion that, hey, this may not be the best thing for this specific time. And so, no harm, no foul. It actually has allowed me to kind of look at other opportunities. And this, I think, is relevant. The reason why I share this is because there's probably some listeners of Real Sales Talk that are thinking, is this a good time to leave my company? When should I know? When will I know when I should leave? There are some things that maybe I'm not happy with or not content with, but I do like these other things. How do you determine when the right thing is? And I think
interesting, and that's where my question is going to go into as we start talking through it is, so walk me through, I guess, the last couple of weeks. So where was your head at? What were you thinking? It's Real Sales Talk, we got it at Real, Sean. So
right.
Where was your head at in the last few days? What was the catalyst or even the final moment where you're like, I got to make a change?
So I wouldn't necessarily say that it wasn't me prompting the conversation, right? It was leadership prompting the conversation, and it was, up until last week, it was, a lot of challenges with understanding the U.S. market, the nuances to the U.S. North American real estate market, and it's tricky for someone, for a company jumping in, trying to figure that out. It can be tough. So that's what I meant by a lot of stops and starts. It was, okay, we think we got this. We think we have this figured out. No, we don't. Make a change. Okay, I think we're ready to go now. We got it. No, not quite. So it was a conversation that was brought up by leadership, but there were things that I was thinking internally that I was suppressing because I really wanted to see things through, right? You like 7-8 months into the job, you don't want to just throw in the towel. It crossed my mind, but I was going to see it out. And I really think like 12 months was what the effort really needed. 7 months into it's probably a little bit too premature, but I just think that since the conversation came up, it's like, okay, that's totally okay with me, because those are some of the things that I was thinking anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you also have previous experience as well, where you've been a very early employee, where there's that the sentimental. There's an attachment, right? Mm-hmm. To be one of the first hires in sales, or the first hire in a region or a new go-to-market. That's interesting. So maybe talk about that dynamic a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting discussion. So two times now. I would say really two times, maybe three, but two times for sure. I've come into a company very early on, in a software startup with a lot of variables, a lot of things that maybe, and I mean, if you're in software, this sounds very, very familiar. If you're in a startup, a lot of things that are kind of like up in the air, could happen, could not. We don't really know about, X or Y. So, with RealSpace, I saw it as an opportunity to help grow their U.S. market, kind of take my experience from previous startups and apply that to RealSpace and help them grow, help take them to the next level. And with any startup, you take a risk. It's a gamble, right? Especially early on. It's really easy to come into a mid-stage or mature company and do well. But with early stage, you're still trying to figure a lot of things out. You don't know what really works, and that's sort of the excitement and thrill for me, at least, behind coming in at an early point. And you could crush it, and you could be seen as a rock star, or if other variables in that formula are not there, then it could not turn out the way that you want or expect it to.
So one more question before we find out what maybe the next thing might be for you. What's the thing that you've learned? So you've now done this a few times. What's the biggest thing I think you could bring to the table, or you should be bringing to the table, as one of the first employees that are in sales that are really kind of leading the charge? What's the biggest lesson learned?
The first thing that comes to mind, and maybe I'll think of some other things, but it can be really easy to take things personally. Like if something doesn't work out, to really think that, oh, it must be me, or it must be because I suck. I'm not a good sales leader, or I'm not a good salesperson. I think you have to learn how to not take things personally, and realize that, especially when you're at an early stage startup or company, that at any point one of those variables in the formula could change, and it affects the entire formula in the entire outcome. So I think that's probably the first thing that comes to mind. Is just be fluid and flexible, and realize that you're really on a day-to-day basis. And if tomorrow the company runs out of funding, or that big client that you brought on decides to cancel and was a key part of, an important part of the revenue to pay your salary, there's a chance that you may have to move on. And no harm, no foul.
Yeah, and there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of things that can change in the startup world where you and I are familiar with, right? You can make one bad hire, or you can make one bad choice, or your go-to-market strategy, or your brand message can be off just enough. The percentages of people that fail early on, the people that fail, and not even fail, right, that just don't get past a certain revenue mark before it just ends, or they need to move on to the next thing. It's 9 to 1 almost every single time. The percentages are insane. So I think there's a lot to be learned, a lot that I've personally learned from sitting inside of a startup world, and it's hard, but that's why it's fun. That's why you enjoy going to work every day. So it's awesome, and I appreciate your candidness and sharing your insight. So tell me what's next. What's going on in your mind?
So Yeah, I've been working on this day after day here for the last week or so. When I thought about when I thought about what's next for Sean and my family, one of the things that I left RealSpace with is this feeling that I didn't have as much control over my destiny as I wanted to. And this has kind of been a culminating thing over the last year. And I've worked for someone, right? I've reported to someone. I've worked for a company, and they decide my pay. They decide my bonuses and pay raises. And over the last year or so, this realization has become more and more of it's become bothersome to me that in some ways I'm relying on someone else to be successful. And so that, I've been dipping my toes in the water of, doing some consulting on the side here and there over the last year, which I've really liked. And over the last year, I've actually, my risk tolerance, has grown pretty significantly. So what I'm thinking is, and I've already started this process, I'm actually thinking about doing a very natural pivot from, the last two major companies that I've worked for being in the real estate software space. I'm actually thinking about pivoting to actually becoming a real estate agent. And this seems very natural, of course, because I've worked with the real estate professional for 5 years or so. I understand it. I've seen both the good and the bad. I don't proclaim to know everything, but I think I've got a really good understanding about what makes the successful real estate agent successful and what makes the not so successful one not unsuccessful. So I've already I had a face-to-face meeting with a real estate team leader today. She's got a really cool team, really great connection, easy conversation. Seems like they're doing a lot of really cool things. Just spoke with a separate team leader in Denver, and I'll go and hang out with them on Friday. So really just kind of quote unquote interviewing some opportunities, or just kind of feeling it out and seeing if it feels natural, and if I get excited about it, then I'll probably do it. And I talked about having more control over my destiny as a real estate professional. I mean, you can't get any more autonomous than being 100% commission. So it's going to be, if I do, I'm about 90% sure I'm gonna do it. And if I do it, it's going to be like, it's going to be really challenging, and I'll have to get really creative, especially with that ramp up. And so I'm actually really excited about it.
I'm excited for you. I think you're going to be amazing at it. I think the way that you think about social media and the way that you think about just sales in general and bringing that into a real estate agent is going to be awesome. So I'm excited, and I appreciate you sharing your journey. And I think that's something where hopefully the Real Sales Talk family, you guys appreciate Sean and I talking a little bit about our journey. It's not always easy, and I think it's I want to make sure that everybody understands that we're practitioners and we're in this with you guys just like it every single day. And that's why I don't know, I enjoy sharing our story a little bit. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. If you do, leave a review on iTunes, give us 5 stars, and or check us out on YouTube and subscribe. We're definitely looking forward to getting in touch with the other Real Sales Talk family.
Totally. I know they're out there because we see the downloads. We see where the downloads are coming from, and which episodes are popular right now. John Barrow's episode is like crushing it for most popular this year in 2017. So in fact, we should have him on again, because it really seems like Real Sales Talk family digs that one quite a bit.
And we probably have a lot more content to go through with him.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, it seems like we're kind of settling in on like 30, 45-minute episodes, which I think is fine. Hour seems like it's pushing it. Anything beyond that, and we kind of started off like in early days of Real Sales Talk a year ago with an hour long, but 30, 45 minutes feels right. So, it just means that if we do get into a good topic with someone, that we've got a good excuse to have them come back on the show for another episode and talk a little bit more in detail about, that thing that we didn't get to dig into as much.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
All right. So we should.
Let's Real Sales Talk family. We appreciate it. This is season 5, episode 3. Be on the lookout. We have some great content coming your guys' way. Season 5, episode 4 coming down the pipeline. It's gonna be a good one. We appreciate it, guys. Keep listening, and like I said, give us some reviews on iTunes and share some love.